Hello everybody. So today I want to comment on Michael Saylor's latest interviews and latest thoughts and what likely are his next moves, because we had two interviews dropped by great podcasters. Please go watch these interviews if you have a significant amount of money in MSTR. It's always interesting to follow what the CEO says. Seems like these interviews were done back to back on the same day. But anyways, we got new things from these interviews. So let's go for takeaways really quickly. Takeaway number one is Saylor is done with convertible debt. He pretty much said that outright in those podcasts. He wants buyers of the debt to be fully aligned with MSTR, i.e., if you issue $1 billion of convertible debt, you don't want the hedge fund that's buying to also short your stock by an equal amount so that they can do the arbitrage. He doesn't want that anymore. He wants the debt holder to be fully aligned with MSTR and Bitcoin going up. And I think this is Gerovich, actually, Simon Gerovich, the CEO of MetaPlanet, that probably put that into Saylor's head. I remember a roundtable from them from February 2025, where Gerovich was clearly making this point that they weren't going to do a convertible debt because it puts pressure on the stock price. It puts pressure on the common. And so I think he put that in Saylor's head. I think we're entirely done with the convertible debt. Of course, I've been saying that for a while, so that also goes in line with what I've been saying. That's point number one. Point number two, and this is just so interesting. Oh, so interesting. I mean, and of course, it's a new way to explain it, but how does strategy grow? Strategy grows, well, of course, by hoping Bitcoin goes up in value. That's kind of an unrelated way that they grow. What is the main way that they grow? And the main way that they grow is by issuing securities. And they issue 4 securities: MSTR, STRD, STRF, and STRK. And you can see how that already differs with convertible debt, which is a very tough security to buy. You need to be an accredited investor. It's got a QSIP number, but it's like stuck in the past. It's not liquid. Convertible debt is none of that, right? STRD, STRK, STRF, and MSTR, they can be bought at most brokers. They're highly liquid. They trade millions of times a day, and that's the product. The product is this STRD, STRK, STRF. That is the product. And that's the genius of Saylor. And this goes against everything that traditional finance says one should do, everything a CFO says you should do, because he was commenting on the banks, right, which reported earnings. And as they're doing well, the thing that they rush to do, the banks, is to destroy capital via buyback. And remember, when a company buys back stock, it's exactly the same as money destruction. It actually has a negative impact on money supply. Whenever a stock buys back stock, you destroy the capital. That capital is burned to make your share disappear, and that's things that a lot of companies are rushing to do. Actually, most companies rush to do that. And as you know on this channel, I've never been a big fan of buyback. And I've always loved dilution on many stocks that are not related to MSTR. I've always thought it was a great thing. And of course, on this channel, I've also always been against dividend. I never understood dividends. And so dividend is a form of capital destruction too. When you pay a dividend, you don't destroy the dollars per se, but you destroy the capital to you as far as you're concerned. And so traditional companies have been taught via 20th century education that it's a good thing to actually destroy capital and reduce your size to perhaps increase your stock price. You reduce the size of the company. And that's opposite to what Saylor is doing with MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy, if you look, they've increased, he pointed out, the market cap on depending on how you calculate it had gone as high as 140 billion. So we moved in 5 years from a billion to 140 billion, but the stock only did a 30x. So the growth in the market cap is much faster for MSTR than the growth in the stock price. And that's a good thing, because you see that difference will still accrete to the stock price as they are able to funnel the capital into a fixed asset called Bitcoin. And so the good way, in my view, to think of strategy is their product is MSTR, STRD, STRF, or STRK. That's the product. That's what they sell. They sell financial instruments for different use cases, for different people. And once they sell those financial instruments, what do? They funnel the capital into a fixed asset called Bitcoin. So they take fiat, which is not fixed, which we don't know how much there is, and they put it into Bitcoin. And a good way to think about that, it's equivalent to investing in a business that is growing at 30% a year, roughly. That's the idea of Bitcoin. And what does Bitcoin do, you may say? Well, what's the use case of Bitcoin? The use case of Bitcoin, of course, is store of value. And of course, if you've been a Bitcoiner for a while, you know, likely, that at least per Austrian economics, which is, in my view, a much better economics, although not the economics prone in the 20th century. But store of value is about half of the use case for humanity's labor, right? About half of our labor, half of our sweat and tears as a human species, we put it into store of value. We put it to prepare for the future, whether it is a retirement, whether it is putting your family aside, whether it is trying to save to buy something. Store of value is the use case of half of our time. And of course, the other use case for money, obviously, and capital, is not just store of value. The other half is, for example, you're buying a house, right? That's another reason why you work. You work because you want to have a home, a nice home. But it's an anomaly that owning a nice home has been a store of value. It should not be a store of value. You're buying a home because you want to live in it, right? That's the whole point. Or you're buying healthcare, you're buying a surgery because you have a health problem and you want to live longer. So you're buying a surgery. So money, there's a lot of uses for money, but saving is one of the primary uses of money. In fact, per all of the capital in the world, saving is about half of the use of money is saving, right? And so that's something that's quite impressive when you start thinking about it. And of course, the company does not grow by revenue. It grows via equity. It grows via debt. It funnels the money that it takes into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin has a fixed supply. And as a result of that, when it takes money from different pools of capital and put it into Bitcoin, it increases the price of Bitcoin and kind of forces Bitcoin onto the capital market as the key store of value. So that's kind of a new takeaway, a new way for firms to grow, for firms to look at finance. And of course, it's a very, very tax advantaged way to do that, because when you grow via your balance sheet, you are not taxed, right? You don't pay a tax when you issue new shares. They are not taxed when they come in. So that's another very fascinating monetary take on this. Anyways, takeaway number 3 is they're excited to issue credit, and we're gonna dig just a little deeper on this. Saylor wants you to keep the debt forever. They want you to have the perpetual debt, and he's explained how really preferred shares, right? Preferred shares. These instruments have always been very odd and very misunderstood and very uninteresting. Why are they so uninteresting? It's because usually they're redeemable, and so usually when a company issues a preferred stock, if that preferred stock goes up a little too much, they can redeem it. And according to Saylor, this is the reason why preferred have never been a really good instrument, because they kind of cap the upside of the preferred by making them redeemable. And so he created these preferred who are not redeemable. He created them so that you can keep them forever and they can go up forever. So you can keep a debt forever, which is already it's kind of going back to like kind of an old way of debt used to work. If you watch this ceremony that Harvard does, where they pay interest on this debt that they've owed to the state of Netherlands since the 1600s, perpetual debt is an old idea. He's kind of rehabilitating this perpetual generational debt that you can carry on and pass on from generation to generation. And in order to do that, to make that debt attractive, it has to be a debt that you can own forever, just like a stock. And so that's the beauty of a preferred perpetual debt of MSTR, is you can own it forever just like a stock. And he's excited to sell you that debt. He wants you to buy more of that debt, and he especially wants the debt to trade at a higher value. He thinks MSTR's debt should trade at a higher value than it currently trades, because the debt is not backed by, for example, the US government and its ability to raise the debt ceiling every other year. The debt is not backed by Walgreens trying to expand another pharmacy in the digital era, and XYZ business trying to double down on a bad idea and issuing debt. And so when it's based on cash flows, that debt is based on future cash flows. No, Saylor's debt is based on Bitcoin. It's backed by Bitcoin. And he's giving you, for that instrument, for that debt instrument, is giving you a share of the price appreciation of Bitcoin throughout the length of the instrument. And so that's why he thinks the debt that they issue, their preferred debt, it should trade at a premium. And so that's the whole idea of price to par. We've seen that in recent ones, right? He's selling $125. He's selling $100 worth of debt for $125. So he makes $25. And right now, of course, none of this debt is investment grade. It's going to be a very long journey for this debt to be investment grade. But eventually, in Saylor's world, this debt will be investment grade because Bitcoin will be seen as the most pristine collateral. And when this debt is investment grade, Saylor looks forward to selling you that $100 debt for $170 or $180. And he also wants you, the debt holder, to be happy and sell that debt that you bought, that liability that you purchased for $100. He wants you to be happy, and also, why not? You yourself, you can sell it too for $170 in the open market. You can own debt for a very, very long time. You can own someone's debt just like you own equity. And so in many ways, Saylor highlights the benefits of owning debt as an instrument, and owning that debt is better sometimes than owning stocks. Sometimes it's better than owning stocks, or at least it's less risky than owning stock. And some people don't want to take the equity risk. Equity risk is a little riskier than Bitcoin itself. And so debt, Saylor can manufacture a debt that is actually perhaps a little less risky than Bitcoin itself. That's the whole idea behind this debt. And so who's the debt customers? And this is if MicroStrategy, non-strategy, if they are a seller of instruments, who's the customers of instruments? Well, of course, we know the customer of common shares are investors, but who's the customer of a debt instrument? Who's trying to buy a debt instrument? Well, retirees, Bitcoiners who want to have an income, companies. It's tough for a company to buy another stock from someone else, but they can buy debt. Hedge funds can buy debt. Folks who are just not all in on Bitcoin just yet, and who like something less volatile, they could want to buy debt. And you also have folks who can only buy debt. An example, this is a video I wanted to make. An example is the FIRE community, I think, would find these debts very, very interesting because it allows you to achieve FIRE for really not nearly as much money, less than $1 million. You could achieve FIRE as, say, for example, take the example of a married couple. This is the US tax code. If you have qualified dividends as a married couple filing jointly, that's $94,000 taxed at 0% with the latest tax code. Let's assume you want to achieve FIRE early. Well, you can do it the long way, the 4% rule, buying the index funds. Or you could do it with a stride or a strife, and you just drop what you drop $800,000-$900,000 into stride, and then that's it. You're there, and you're taxed at zero. And so even that is advantageous to anybody who wants to take advantage of different taxation for this different instrument. That can be very advantageous. Debt can be advantageous to own even to the Bitcoiner who likes pure form Bitcoin. There's a lot of use cases. So that's takeaway number 3. Takeaway number 4 is what's next? What's the next instrument? Well, it seems to me when he was talking about currency swaps and swaps, it seems to me like he's ready to issue euro or yen denominated instruments. And I think euro denominated debt instruments are probably more likely to come, because he's commented before that MetaPlanet would be quicker to issue a debt instrument in Japan than STRD will be. So I think European Union debt instrument could be the next thing to come. Maybe British pounds as well. I don't really know too much, but euro debt, and hopefully in the form of a preferred, that could be something to come. And if I see Saylor, he's been hanging out with Alexandre Lézé, which is the blockchain group guy in Europe. So that could be the next thing. And he's highlighted that in his latest interviews. So I think he's working on that. He's working on trying to find a way to issue an attractive debt instrument outside of the United States, and do that, of course, in the currency over there, like in euro or in yen. And if you do that, Saylor wants to take the currency risk, take on the currency risk. And of course, Saylor is taking the currency risk against the dollar. Right? That's why he's buying Bitcoin. So he could take even further currency risk in, say, buying the euro, buying a swap on the euro, and making sure that he can earn a yield like that. And takeaway number 5, although this is an obvious one, I forgot to add it. Let me add it here. Takeaway number 5 is S&P's coming eventually, right? S&P 500 is coming eventually. Eventually, they'll have no choice. He didn't seem very optimistic about the committee treating them right, but eventually they'll have no choice, because S&P 500 is going to start underperforming, right? That's how they ended up having to add Tesla in 2020, because they had outperformed for too long. They had underperformed for too long. So eventually S&P 500 will have no choice, but typically it takes a very long time for companies to update their frames of thinking. So hopefully you found this videos helpful. These are the latest takeaways from Saylor. I, of course, look forward to the conference call. This is going to be a pretty darn outstanding conference call coming up for their Q2. So anyways, this was not investment advice, not financial advice, only entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me next. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.